Good morning and welcome to This Week. Spy Shift. The president reforms America's secret surveillance programs. Was his hand forced by this man?
No, I don't think Mr. Snowden was a patriot.
This morning, Snowden's father responds. Brand new details. Will his son come home to face trial? What will he reveal next? Snowden live only on This Week. Plus, breaking this morning, our embassies reopen after that worldwide terror alert. Are we still at risk? And why is Donald Trump stumping in Iowa?
The Republican Party is in serious trouble.
The Powerhouse Roundtable weighs in on all the week's politics right here this Sunday morning.
From ABC News, This Week with George Stephanopoulos starts now.
Good morning. In the news overnight, a dramatic rescue. Hannah Anderson, that kidnapped San Diego teenager, is safe after an all-out manhunt ended in the Idaho wilderness.
James Lee DiMaggio was shot and killed by an FBI tactical agent. Hannah Anderson was located with DiMaggio. She appears well.
And Hannah will be reunited with her father this morning. Overseas, one of the deadliest days for Iraq in years. Nearly 70 people killed from a series of car bombs, all timed to hit those celebrating the end of Ramadan. And across that region, 18 of the 19 American embassies and consulates closed after a global terror alert are open again. ABC's chief global affairs correspondent Martha Raddatz has been tracking the threats that led to this extraordinary closing. And Martha, are the embassies opening again now because U.S. officials believe those drone strikes in Yemen this week actually got the plotters?
George, officials I have spent the weekend talking to say the plotters of this specific plan were not killed in those strikes in Yemen, but the dead are part of what they called the network of terrorists trying to kill Americans. Intelligence officials believe the plan in Yemen was to send a truck bomb into the U.S. embassy there, but a senior U.S. official now tells me that because of all the actions taken, the terrorists have likely moved the explosives out of the vehicle and are changing tactics, adding, "We think that this imminent threat has dissipated, but fear they have gone back to ground, waiting for the next opportunity to strike." So, George, this immediate threat may have passed, but the threat of terrorism really never ends.
And, Martha, we also heard from U.S. officials that they believe the NSA surveillance programs may have helped track this emerging threat. We saw the president come out on Friday announcing some reforms in those programs. Also had some pretty tough words for the NSA leaker. Edward Snowden said he was not a patriot. Take a look.
Mr. Snowden's been charged with 3 felonies. If, in fact, he believes that what he did was right, then, like every American citizen, he can come here, appear before the court with a lawyer, and make his case.
So, Martha, what more have you been able to learn about what U.S. officials are trying to do to actually get Snowden right now?
Well, you know, some officials I've talked to wish that a deal could be struck with Snowden that would bring him back to the U.S. Make no mistake, one official said Snowden has done irrefutable damage. The more the terrorists, know how we can monitor them, the less we will be able to. And that is the single most important asset we have. But some officials say we don't know all of what Snowden has. We don't want him in the hands of the Russians. And whatever message it would send by making a deal with them, he's already gotten the president of the United States to make some changes. But the Justice Department has given no indication a deal is in the works, George.
Some pushing for it. Okay, Martha, thanks very much. Now to our exclusive interview with Edward Snowden's father, Lon Snowden, the family's lawyer, Bruce Fein. Thank you both for joining us this morning. You just heard there some U.S. officials, according to Martha Raddatz, believe that a deal may be in the United States' interest. Do you think that's something your son is open to?
I can tell you that I'm not open to it, and that's what I'll share with my son in terms of a plea deal. At this
You're not
point,
open to it?
Not open to it. At this point, what I would like is for this to be vetted in open court for the American people to have all of the facts. What I've seen is much political theater. I was disappointed in the president's press conference. I believe that's driven by his clear understanding that the American people are absolutely unhappy with what they've learned and that more is going to be forthcoming. So, again, and I believe much of what he suggested is superficial. We can go over that point by point if you would like. But a deal, the only deal will be true justice. You know, justice should be the goal of our government. and is also the goal of a civil society.
Those are the words of James Madison. If I could make these points, George. Number one, we now have a date for visiting Moscow.
You're going to Moscow now. You have a visa from the Russians.
We have visas. We have a date, which we won't disclose right now because of the frenzy. Very soon. And we intend to visit with Edward and suggest criminal defense attorneys who've got experience in Espionage Act prosecutions. There have only been 10 in over 100 years. We think also it's especially important to go back to what President Obama said about Edward not being a patriot. It was the voice of the American Revolution, Thomas Paine, who defined a patriot as someone who saves his country from his government. And we also heard about all these alleged disasters that would ensue to the United States because of what Edward has done. Let's go back to the Bradley Manning case. When it came to the damage phase, the United States conceded not one person has been injured, impaired because of what Bradley Manning disclosed.
What was your reaction when you heard the president say that your son's not a patriot?
I would say, again, I think he was put in a tough spot. There were many questions that should have been asked at that press conference that were not. I would have liked to have seen him ask about the DEA's Special Operation Division, many other things, his treatment of whistleblowers. But in terms of him characterizing my son as a patriot, or others like Peter King, who characterizes him as a traitor, what I would say is that my son has spoken the truth. He has sacrificed more than either the President of the United States or Peter King have ever in their political careers or their American lives. So how they choose to characterize him really doesn't carry much weight with me.
But it sounds like you say you're not open to a deal, but you are. It does sound like you're going to encourage your son to come back here and face trial?
I think, George, I can add, because I wrote a letter with Lon to the Attorney General of the United States saying we'd like to discuss conditions that would make it
right, you said
permissible.
No pretrial detention, no gag order, and he would choose the venue. That's unusual.
No. At a venue that was impartial because of the history of the Eastern District of Virginia being a graveyard for defendants. But those, George, were not stated as ultimatums. They were subjects for discussion with non-circumvention clauses in there, just because we understand we can't dictate what the Department of Justice does.
And as a father, you want your son to come home?
As a father, I want my son to come home if I believe that the justice system that we should be afforded as Americans is going to be applied correctly. At this point, when you consider many of the statements made by our leaders in Congress, they are absolutely irresponsible and inconsistent with our system of justice. They have poisoned the well, so to speak, in terms of a potential jury pool. Where my son chooses to live the rest of his life is going to be his decision. But I would like at some point in time for him to be able to come back to the U.S., whether he's going to live the rest of his life here or not, and face this, because I believe that the truth will shine through. It's clear that the American people, regardless of what laws have been passed by Congress.
I was going to say, it does appear that he broke the law.
No, George, that's simply irresponsible to suggest before a trial someone has broken the law. It may well be that what he disclosed is protected by the First Amendment. The president himself has already conceded there's something irregular about the way the NSA
the president pointed out that he had other avenues open to him.
Yes, and let's go that. And what he said was, oh, Mr. Snowden should have gone to the Congressional Oversight Committees. The Congressional Oversight Committees have already gone on record. Dianne Feinstein, he's guilty of treason. These were the committees that knew for 7 years what was going on and refused to disclose it to the American people. The best was some cryptic statements. If the American people knew what was going on, they would be stunned. And Edward Snowden is supposed to go to them? You know, that seems rather implausible because they were the ones who were responsible for the secrecy.
I want to add to this. No, sure. I want to add is in terms of the president made the statement that that the president had enacted whistleblower laws that protected contractors like my son Edward. That is absolutely untrue. Either the president is being misled by his advisors, or he is intentionally misleading the American people. Absolutely not. And maybe at some point we should go through that. You know, in the media of just hypothetically, let's imagine that Edward Snowden said, "Wow, there's a problem." Let's say he got on an airliner in Honolulu and he chose to fly to Washington, D.C., lands at Dulles, and he actually gets an audience with, let's say, Peter King or Dianne Feinstein. How do we think that he would have been received if he had a private audience with them? We've seen how they've reacted even when the truth comes out. They spin the truth. They try to hide it from the American people. He would have been buried under the Capitol,
Let me ask you
and we would have never known the truth.
Final question. I know you haven't been in direct contact with your son, but what do you know about his condition right now?
I'll just say that having spoken with Anatoly Kucherina, who is his Russian attorney, Anatoly has said, he's safe. He obviously is exhausted, but he now needs a period of time where he can recoup his energy level and reflect on what he wishes to do going forward. And that's from Mr. Cucciarino. We hope to meet with him, say, very soon with Edward in the next weeks.
Good luck with that. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.